Hi there and welcome to another video from Hegarty Maths. It's Mr. Hegarty here, and in this video we're dealing with indices with algebraic expression, our second video on that. Now, as previously, it's absolutely imperative that you know your rules of indices with numbers. Go back to the number strand, work through those before you start doing these, otherwise they won't make sense. So, in the last video I asked you to state what these rules meant, and here were the answers. Just to point out, in this video we're going to be working on rules 4 to 9 with algebra and indices involving algebra. So let's get started. I'm always going to start by making links to how to do it with numbers, and then I'm going to build it up with algebra. So pause the video and you should be able to do this one yourself. Write as a fraction 2 to the negative 3. Well, hopefully you realise that that is 1 over 2 cubed. And you can work out 2 cubed, it's 8, so this is the same as 1/8. Okay? Now, exactly the same thing's going on here, except our base isn't 2 anymore, it's y. So y to the power of negative 3 must be 1 over y cubed. And that's a fraction. And we're done our question. Now, again, I'm showing you these differences again and again. Let's maybe do the bracket one first. The bracket one is telling us that it's 1 over our base is 2y that gets cubed. And we can work out 2y cubed. What does 2y cubed mean? It means 2y times 2y times 2y, which is actually 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Y times y times y is y cubed. We could actually write that as 1 over 8y cubed. Now, what does this thing mean here? Let's think really carefully. What's getting raised to the negative 3? Is it the 2? Is it the y? Is it the 2y? It's just this, isn't it? When there's no bracket around it, it's just that. So keep the 2 exactly where it is, don't muck around with the 2, and work out y to the power of negative 3, which we know here is 1 over y cubed. And we're multiplying these things. And 2 multiplied by 1 over y cubed, well, that's multiplying fractions. Think of 2 as 2 over 1. If you multiply fractions, you multiply the tops. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times y cubed is y cubed. And oh my, look how different these were from each other. Look at this. 2y to the negative 3 we showed just now is 2 over y cubed. Whereas 2y all to the negative 3 we showed as 1 over 8y cubed. And these things are totally different to each other. Hence, these things are totally different to each other. So again, I'm pointing out the importance of the brackets there. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, pause and see if you can do the following. If we're asked to write an index form here, 1 over x times x times x, well, that's 1 over x cubed. And we know how to write 1 over x cubed. That's x to the negative 3. Done. How would we do that? Well, we know that that's the same thing as 7 over x cubed, which we know is the same thing as 7x to the negative 3. Why? Well, let's just think. That's really 7 over x cubed is really 7 times 1 over x cubed, isn't it? It comes from the answer from that, which we know is 7x to the negative 3. And what about this last one here? Well, just like above, the 7 will end up being here. What are we raising to the power of negative 3? Not x, but 2x to the negative 3. And that would be the answer for that one. Right, let's try and use the multiplication rule with indices. Pause the video and do this. You should be able to do that. 9 to the 5 multiplied by 9 cubed, because the base is the same, we can say this is the same thing as 9 to the 5 add 3, which is 8. Exactly the same story with algebra. Instead of a 9, we've got a y. So the answer here is going to be y to the power of 8. What about this? Well, because we can do multiplication in any order, let's just multiply the numbers separately. 3 multiplied by 2, that's going to get us 6. So do that and leave that at the front. And we know that y to the power of 5 multiplied by y cubed from above is y to the 8. And we don't have a times sign with algebra, so that's the answer. And what about the last one? Here we've got 3x to the power of 5, and here we've really got 1x, haven't we, to the power of 1. 3 times 1 is 3. x to the 5 multiplied by x to the 1 is going to be x to the power of 6. And we're done. Okay, let's do the division rule. Pause the video and do this one. Well, hopefully you realize this would be 9 to the power of 5 subtract 3, which is 2. In exactly the same way here, we don't have 9s, we have y's. So this would be y to the power of 2. What about this? Well, when dividing, I think it's always helpful to write it in fraction form. So write 4y to the power of 5 over 2y cubed. Divide the numbers separately. 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. Y to the power of 5 divided by y cubed, well, we know that from up here, is y squared. Simple as that. And the last one's already written in fraction form for us. 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5. X to the power of 5 divided by x squared is x to the power of 5 take away 2, which is x to the power of 3. And we're done. Now, next one, I'd like you to just pause the video and definitely try this one, the power of the power rule. Well, hopefully you realize that this would be simplified in index form as 9 to the power of 5 multiplied by 3, which is 15. So we knew that from our number work. Now, I'm going to introduce algebra. I'm just swapping 9 with y. So the answer to this one is clearly going to be y to the power of 15. Y to the 5 multiplied by 3. What about this one? The brackets around the 2y to the 5 mean it's 2y to the 5 getting cubed, multiplied by itself 3 times. So I probably with these, I find it easier just to say that's 2y to the 5 multiplied by 2y to the 5 multiplied by 2y to the 5. Because I can multiply in any order, I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 2, which gives me 8. And y to the 5 times y to the 5 is y to the 10, times another y to the 5 is y to the 15. And that's the answer. Now, there is a quicker way of doing it. This is a shortcut for you. I'll show you. The 2 is getting raised to the power of 3, and so is the y to the power of 5. So you could just write that as 2 getting cubed and y to the 5 getting cubed. 2 cubed is 8. Y to the 5 to the 3, well, by this is y to the 15, power of the power rule, and you get the same answer. But to be honest with you, I don't mind writing it out and just getting it like this because I know what's going on and it's not a shortcut. Okay, what about this one? Now, this is where you have to be really careful. These last two are proper tricky stuff. So if you're struggling, it is going to be difficult, but bear with it. You can do it if you just keep concentrating. This thing here is getting raised to the power of negative 3. So that means this thing is the same thing as 1 over this expression 2y to the 5 to the positive 3. Now we've just done 2y to the power of 5 to the positive 3. Look, we've just done it up here. We said it was 8y to the 15. So this is 1 over 8y to the 15. Now this is where it gets a tiny bit tricky. If that's an answer, that was that, they're definitely right. It's just the question told us to write it in index form. Now I just have to go off to the side here. 1 over 8y to the 15. I could break that out into 1 over 8 multiplied by 1 over y to the 15. Because I know that when I multiply fractions, 1 times 1 would give me that 1. But the 8 times the y to the 15 would give me 8y to the 15. And this is handy because 1/8, I can write 1/8 as just 1/8. But this thing here, I can write as y to the power of negative 15. And that's kind of in the index form that the question was looking for. So this is 1/8 y to the negative 15. Okay, and the last one, this here, 2y to the negative 5 all cubed. Well, when it's just to the positive power here, I'm just going to write this out what it means. It means 2y to the negative 5 times 2y to the negative 5 times 2y to the negative 5. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 as before. Y to the 5 times y to the negative 5 again is y to the negative 10 times another y to the negative 5 is y to the negative 15. And I could have done it a quick way. I could have said 2y to the negative 5 cubed. I could have said that's 2 cubed and y to the negative 5 cubed, which would have been 8y to the negative 15 as I got here. So these last three, I expect them being quite tricky for you, but just watch and try hard and keep practicing those types, and you will eventually get it. Okay, the last slide. Pause and tell me what 9 to the half means, or work it out. 9 to the half means the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So what does y to the half mean? Well, it means the square root of y, which you just leave it like that in third form. 9y to the half, what does that mean? Well, it means 9 multiplied by y to the half, which is root y. And the mathematician writes 9 multiplied by root y as simply 9 root y. Now the last one, the brackets around the 9y, are telling you that it's the square root not just of the y, but of 9y. And by the rule of thirds, we can break that up into root 9 root y. Root 9 is 3, so the answer is 3 root y. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.